The baby kicked 3 times, like she knew what her mother was about to find on that phone. What Natalie discovered that night wasn't just text messages. It was 8 months of lies, 8 months of betrayal, 8 months while she carried his child. He was planning a future with someone else. But here's what Natalie didn't know yet. In 3 weeks, she'd be standing on a 20th floor balcony, face to face with the woman who wanted to erase her. And in the seconds it took to fall 20 stories toward concrete, a billboard would catch her. Not just any billboard. His billboard, the one he'd been stealing money from. This is the true story of a woman who survived the impossible, who gave birth while broken, who turned her husband's crimes into her comeback, and who learned that sometimes you have to fall before you can fly. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the moment everything shattered. To the moment Natalie picked up that phone and destroyed her own peace. Because what happened next? You won't believe it until you hear every word. This is her story, and trust me, you need to hear how it ends. The baby kicked 3 times, hard, like she knew what Natalie was about to find. Natalie Brooks stood in the kitchen of their penthouse apartment, one hand pressed against her swollen belly, the other stirring marinara sauce that bubbled on the stove. 7 months pregnant. The baby had been active all day, turning somersaults, pressing tiny feet against her ribs. Natalie smiled despite the discomfort. Her daughter, their daughter. The city stretched out beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. 20 stories below, Manhattan pulsed with evening traffic. Horns blared, sirens wailed in the distance. Up here, the sounds were muted, filtered through thick glass and wealth. Garrett's phone buzzed on the marble counter. Natalie glanced at it, kept stirring. The sauce needed another 10 minutes. Garrett would be home soon. Thursday night, their night. No matter how busy work got, they always had Thursday dinners together. It was a promise they'd made 5 years ago, back when they were just starting out. Back when she worked at his company too, before the pregnancy made climbing stairs exhausting and the morning sickness never seemed to end. The phone buzzed again. She reached for the wooden spoon, her maternity dress stretching across her stomach. The baby kicked again, once, twice, 3 times. The phone buzzed a 3rd time. Natalie's hand hovered over the spoon. She stared at Garrett's phone. The screen lit up with each notification. She couldn't see the messages from here. Couldn't see who was texting, but 3 messages in less than a minute meant urgency. Maybe a client emergency. Maybe something with the Brooks advertising campaign that was launching next week. The baby kicked harder. Natalie picked up the phone. She did what every woman who's about to destroy her own peace does. She picked up the phone. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She knew his passcode. Their anniversary, May 14th. He knew hers too. They'd always been open with each other. No secrets. That's what they said. No secrets between them. She unlocked the phone. The messages filled the screen. Not from a client, from a contact saved as VC. The first message was a photo. Natalie's breath caught. A woman's body, naked, sprawled across sheets Natalie recognized. White with navy pinstripes. The sheets from their guest bedroom. The sheets she'd washed last week. The second message, missing you already, can still feel your hands on me. The third message, when are you telling her? I'm tired of hiding. Natalie's fingers went numb. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. She gripped it tighter, scrolled up. The messages went back months. 8 months, she counted. January, February, March. She'd been 12 weeks pregnant in January. Morning sickness so bad she could barely leave the bathroom. Garrett bringing her saltines and ginger ale, holding her hair back, kissing her forehead, while he was texting someone else, while he was sleeping with someone else. The messages were explicit. Photos, videos she couldn't bring herself to open. Plans to meet, hotels downtown, lunch breaks that stretched into afternoons. Every business trip, every late night at the office, every time he said he was tired. Not tonight, maybe this weekend. He'd been with her. With VC, Natalie scrolled faster. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The baby kicked frantically, sensing her mother's distress. In April, a message. She's showing now, makes me sick to look at her. In May, just a few more months, then we can be together. In June, I can't do this anymore. I love you, only you. Last week, told everyone at the office we're engaged. They're so happy for us. When are you leaving her? Natalie looked up from the phone. The marinara sauce had started to burn. Smoke curled from the pot. The fire alarm should have gone off. But she couldn't hear anything over the rushing in her ears, over the sound of her own heartbeat, over the baby kicking, kicking, kicking. The wine glass she'd been holding, sparkling cider because she was pregnant, slipped through her fingers, shattered against the marble. Glass exploded across the floor. Cider splattered up her legs. Neither of them had noticed Garrett walk in. He stood in the doorway, still in his suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. His tie was loose, hair slightly mussed, like he'd run his hands through it. Or someone else had. He saw her face first, then his phone in her hands, then the broken glass at her feet. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Natalie couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she just read. 8 months. She'd been pregnant for 8 months. He'd been cheating for 8 months. The math was simple, brutal. He'd started the affair before they knew about the baby. Maybe because of the baby. Tell me, she whispered. Her voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Tell me it's not what it looks like. Garrett's face went blank, cold, like a stranger wearing her husband's skin. He closed the door behind him, set down his briefcase, loosened his tie further. Natalie, he said, his voice was calm, too calm. Let me explain. Explain? Natalie's voice cracked. She held up his phone. Her hand shook so badly the screen blurred. Explain 8 months of messages. Explain photos. Explain this woman telling everyone at your office that you're engaged. Garrett took a step forward. His hands came up in a placating gesture. You're overreacting. I'm overreacting. Natalie repeated the words slowly, testing them. They tasted like poison. I found explicit messages and I'm overreacting. You went through my phone. Garrett's voice shifted. Now there was an edge to it. Accusation. That's a violation of privacy. A violation of... Natalie couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't believe what she was hearing. You're having an affair, and you're worried about privacy? It's not what you think. Garrett moved closer, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. It didn't mean anything. 8 months is nothing? Natalie backed away. Her feet crunched on broken glass. She didn't feel the cuts, didn't feel anything except the baby kicking. Always kicking. Messages every day is nothing? The pregnancy has made you paranoid. Garrett's voice was gentle now, concerned. The tone he used when explaining complex advertising concepts to new clients. You're emotional, hormonal, reading things that aren't there. I saw the photos, Garrett. Old photos from before. She's just an ex who won't let go. The sheets from our guest room? Natalie's voice rose. The messages from last week, yesterday, this morning? You're being hysterical. Garrett reached for her. She jerked back. This is exactly why I needed space. The constant emotional, don't. Natalie's voice went quiet, deadly. Don't you dare make this about me being emotional. I'm 7 months pregnant with your child, and you're telling me I'm the problem? Do you know how hard it's been for me? Garrett's mask slipped. Real anger flashed across his face. You're tired all the time. You don't want to go out. Everything is about the baby. I have needs, Natalie. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, ugly, true. Natalie looked at her husband, really looked at him, and realized she'd been looking at a stranger for months, maybe years. How long had she been making excuses, believing his explanations, ignoring the signs because confronting them would mean admitting she'd built her life on sand? Who is she? Natalie asked. It doesn't matter. Who is VC? Garrett was silent. Who is... Natalie scrolled through the messages again, found a name. Vanessa Cole? Your junior account executive? The woman I met at the company Christmas party? The one who helped plan my baby shower? Garrett's jaw tightened. Oh, God. Natalie's legs gave out. She sank into a chair. The baby kicked hard enough to make her gasp. She was at our house. She brought gifts. She touched my stomach and told me how lucky I was. Natalie, does she know? Natalie looked up. Tears blurred her vision. Does she know you're married? Does she know about the baby? Of course she knows. The words were worse than a slap. Natalie pressed both hands against her belly. The baby had stopped kicking. Gone still. Like even she could sense the world crumbling. I need to leave. Natalie stood. Her voice was steady now, clear. I need to pack a bag and leave. You're not thinking clearly. Garrett moved to block the hallway. In your condition, get out of my way. You're making a mistake. You're pregnant. You're not being rational. I saw the messages, Garrett, from January. I was 12 weeks pregnant in January. His face flickered. Guilt, just for a second. Then the mask was back. We were fighting in January. You were sick all the time. I made a mistake. It's over now. The last message was from this morning. I'm ending it. Today. Right now. Just sit down. Let's talk about this. But Natalie was already moving. Past him, down the hall to their bedroom. She pulled her overnight bag from the closet, started throwing clothes inside, maternity jeans, stretchy shirts, underwear. Her hands shook. Everything shook. Garrett followed. You're being ridiculous. Where are you going to go? Bridget's. Natalie grabbed her phone from the nightstand. I'm calling Bridget. Your friend who's never liked me? Great idea. Let her poison you against me even more. Natalie ignored him, dialed. Bridget picked up on the second ring. Nat, what's wrong? Come get me. Natalie's voice broke. Please, come get me now. I'm in the parking lot at the hospital. Give me 20 minutes. Are you safe? I'm safe. Just come. On my way. Natalie hung up, continued packing. Garrett stood in the doorway, watching. His expression cycled through emotions. Anger, frustration, calculation. If you leave, you're throwing away everything we built. His voice was cold now, clinical. 5 years of marriage. This apartment, the company, your future. My future. Natalie zipped the bag. My future where you're sleeping with your employee while I raise your child? Our child. She? The words came out before Natalie could stop them. Is this baby what you wanted? Or did you already have someone else picked out but throw out to build a life with? Garrett's silence was answer enough. Natalie pushed past him, bag over her shoulder, phone clutched in her hand. She made it to the front door before he spoke again. You're going to regret this when you calm down, when you think rationally. You'll see I'm right. Natalie turned, looked at her husband one last time. I already regret something. It's not leaving. She walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. The hallway was empty, quiet. Her hands had stopped shaking. The baby kicked. Once, twice, 3 times. I know, Natalie whispered to her daughter. I know. She took the elevator down. 20 floors, each floor a year of her life. She'd met Garrett when she was 27, married him at 28, worked at his company for 3 years before the pregnancy. Now 32, 7 months pregnant, starting over. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. Natalie stepped out into the lobby. The doorman smiled at her. Evening, Mrs. Brooks? Need a car? No, thank you. My friend is picking me up. She waited outside. Manhattan air was thick with summer heat, exhaust fumes, hot garbage. Someone was grilling meat somewhere. Music pounded from a passing car. A dog barked. Life continued. The world kept turning. She just discovered her marriage was a law and the world kept turning. Bridget's car pulled up 15 minutes later. A beat-up Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. Bridget jumped out, ran around to help with Natalie's bag. Oh, honey. Bridget's voice was soft, careful. Let's get you out of here. Natalie climbed into the passenger seat. Bridget got behind the wheel. They pulled away from the curb, away from the building, away from Garrett. Neither of them spoke until they were 3 blocks away. Then Natalie broke. Sobs tore from her chest, loud, ugly, raw. She couldn't breathe, couldn't see. Bridget pulled into the hospital parking lot where she worked, the same lot where she'd been when Natalie called. She cut the engine. pulled Natalie into her arms as much as the center console would allow. I knew, Natalie gasped between sobs. God, Bridget, part of me knew, and I pretended I didn't. Shh, it's okay, you're okay. He's been cheating for 8 months. Since before the baby, maybe because of the baby. Bridget held her tighter. That's not your fault. None of this is your fault. I made excuses. Every time he worked late, every time he was too tired, every time he said he needed space. I believed him. Because you trusted him. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. I was so stupid. Natalie pulled back, wiped her face, her hands came away black with the mascara. The signs were all there. You're not stupid. He's a manipulative asshole who took advantage of the woman carrying his child. Natalie laughed. It sounded broken. The hardest part isn't that he cheated. It's that I let myself become the kind of person who made excuses for him. They sat in silence. The hospital hummed with activity behind them. Ambulances came and went. Patients shuffled toward the entrance. Life and death cycling through. Natalie felt suspended between both. The old life was dead. The new life hadn't started yet. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She shouldn't answer, but her hand moved on its own. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a woman's voice, young, angry, desperate. He's mine now, and if you think you're getting anything in the divorce, you're stupider than he said. The line went dead. Natalie stared at her phone. The screen went dark. Bridget was already asking questions, but the words were underwater. Muffled. Distant. Vanessa Cole had her number, had called to stake her claim, had called while Natalie sat in a parking lot with her best friend, 7 months pregnant, homeless, shattered. The baby kicked 3 times. Hard. Like she knew everything was about to get worse. The calls started at 3 in the morning. Natalie woke in Bridget's guest room to her phone vibrating on the nightstand. Unknown number. She declined. It called again immediately, declined again. A text message appeared. You can't ignore me forever. Then another. He never wanted you. He was just too nice to say it. Another. The baby? He told me he wanted you to get rid of it. Natalie turned off her phone, lay in the dark. The baby was awake now too, turning, pressing. She could feel individual limbs, a foot against her ribs, an elbow near her hip. Her daughter was running out of room, growing bigger every day, preparing to enter a world that had already fallen apart. By morning, she had 63 missed calls, 47 text messages, 3 voicemails she couldn't bring herself to listen to. Bridget knocked on the door. You awake? Unfortunately. Bridget came in carrying a tray, toast, orange juice, a banana. You need to eat. The baby needs you to eat. Natalie sat up, took the toast. It tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like cardboard now. Vanessa called me last night from the car. I heard. Bridget perched on the edge of the bed. And she's called 47 more times since? How did you... You left your phone on the counter. I saw the notifications. Nat, this woman is unhinged. She's in love. Natalie bit into the toast, forced herself to chew, to swallow. Or she thinks she is. Garrett probably told her everything she wanted to hear. That doesn't make harassment okay. I know. We should report her. For what? Calling me? Texting me? Natalie shook her head. She's not threatening me. She's just angry. She's escalating. Bridget's voice was firm. Nurse voice. The one she used when patients weren't taking their symptoms seriously. Trust me, I've seen this before. It starts with calls. Then she'll show up places. Then what? Bridget didn't answer. They spent the day in silence. Natalie on the couch, Bridget at work. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors that creaked. Street noise from below. But it was safe, quiet. Nobody knew she was here except Bridget. Garrett didn't call, didn't text, didn't try to reach her at all. Vanessa called 17 more times. By evening, Natalie needed clothes. Real clothes. Maternity dresses. Her breast pump. The nursery books she'd been reading. Everything was at the penthouse. Everything she needed to prepare for the baby was 20 stories up in an apartment she couldn't go back to. I'll come with you, Bridget said when Natalie explained. We'll go during his lunch. He always takes lunch at 1 o'clock, right? Every day, noon to 1:30. Perfect. We'll be in and out in 20 minutes. They drove to the penthouse at 12:15. Bridget parked on the street, kept the engine running. I'll wait here. Text me if anything feels wrong. Natalie took the elevator up. Each floor felt longer than before, slower. By the time she reached 20, her heart was pounding. The baby was kicking, nervous energy or survival instinct, maybe both. She unlocked the door. The apartment was dark, quiet, exactly as she'd left it 2 days ago, except the broken wine glass was gone. The marinara sauce cleaned up, the kitchen spotless. Natalie moved quickly, down the hall, to the bedroom. She pulled out her large suitcase, started filling it with maternity clothes, underwear, bras that fit over her swollen breasts, shoes she could slip on without bending over, her pregnancy pillow, the books from her nightstand. She was reaching for her jewelry box when she heard water running. Someone was in the shower. Natalie froze. Garrett was supposed to be at lunch. The shower was running in the master bathroom. Their bathroom. Steam curled from under the door. Maybe he came home sick. Maybe he skipped lunch today. Maybe. The water shut off. Footsteps on tile. The door opened. A woman stepped out, wrapped in a towel, dark hair wet and dripping, Natalie's bathrobe draped over one arm. She stopped when she saw Natalie. Didn't look surprised, didn't look embarrassed. Vanessa Cole smiled. "You're home early," Vanessa said. Her voice was casual, like they were roommates, like this was normal. "Garrett said you wouldn't be back until next week." Natalie couldn't speak, couldn't move. This woman was in her bathroom, using her shower, wearing her towel, holding her robe, the silk robe her grandmother had given her, the one she'd worn through every morning sickness episode. Through the night they found out the baby was a girl, through every milestone of this pregnancy. This stranger wore it like a trophy. "Garrett gave me a key," Vanessa continued. She walked past Natalie, to the closet, started pulling out clothes. Natalie's clothes. "We practically live here now anyway. He said you'd be moving out soon, making it official." "Get out." Natalie's voice was barely a whisper. "Excuse me?" "Get out of my house." Vanessa turned. Her expression shifted. The casual mask dropped. Something cold slid underneath. "Your house? This is Garrett's apartment. His name on the deed. His money that paid for it. You're just the wife he's divorcing. Get out." "Or what?" Vanessa stepped closer. "You'll call the police? Tell them what? That your husband's girlfriend is here with his permission? That you broke into his apartment?" "I didn't break in. I live here." "Not anymore." Vanessa's voice dripped with false sympathy. "Didn't he tell you? He's changing the locks tomorrow. You should have come earlier." Natalie's phone buzzed. Text from Bridget. "Everything okay? You've been up there 30 minutes. 30 minutes. She'd lost track of time, standing frozen while this woman dismantled her life one word at a time. "I'm getting my things," Natalie said. "Then I'm leaving. You can do whatever you want after that." She turned back to the suitcase, threw in the jewelry box, her favorite sweater, the baby book she'd been filling out. Week by week progress. Photos of her growing belly, notes about cravings and hopes and dreams. Vanessa followed her. "He never wanted that baby, you know." Natalie kept packing. "He told me the night you showed him the pregnancy test. He called me crying, said you'd trapped him, said he wanted out but didn't know how." "Stop talking. We were already planning our future. Then you got pregnant and ruined everything." Natalie zipped the suitcase, grabbed her purse, started toward the door. Vanessa blocked her path. "He was going to make you have an abortion. I have the texts. Want to see them?" Natalie stopped, looked at this woman, really looked at her. 27 years old, pretty, thin, everything Natalie wasn't anymore. Everything Garrett apparently wanted instead. "He told you that?" Natalie asked quietly. "He tells me everything. We have no secrets, not like you two." "Show me." Vanessa pulled out her phone, pulled up messages, held them out. Natalie read, January 14th. The day after she'd told Garrett about the baby. The day he'd held her, kissed her, said he was so happy, said they'd build a beautiful family. The message to Vanessa: "She won't listen to reason, says she's keeping it. I don't know what to do." Vanessa's response, make her see sense. It's not too late. Garrett, I've tried. She's being stubborn. Says it's meant to be. Vanessa, then leave her. Come to me. We'll start over. Just us. Garrett, soon. I promise. Just need to figure out the money first. More messages, more plans, more discussions about how to convince Natalie to terminate, how to make her think it was her own idea, how to arrange it so he wouldn't look like the bad guy. Natalie's hands started shaking. The phone blurred. Oh God, you're telling the truth. She remembered February, Garrett suggesting they wait, maybe just a few months, make sure everything was stable. Maybe this wasn't the right time. They were so young. They had plenty of time for babies later. She remembered how hard she'd cried, how scared she'd been that he didn't want their daughter, how he'd eventually backed down, said he was just nervous. First-time dad jitters. Of course he wanted the baby. Of course he loved her already. He'd been lying the entire time. He wanted me to kill my baby. Natalie said it out loud, needed to hear the words. He wanted me to abort my daughter and so he could be with you. Not just wanted. Vanessa took back her phone. He begged, but you wouldn't listen. You never listen. That's what he says. You're so focused on what you want that you don't care about anyone else. Natalie looked at her suitcase, her purse, the door 20 feet away. She could leave, walk out, never see this woman again, start over, forget any of this happened, but her feet wouldn't move. Why are you telling me this? Natalie asked. Because you need to know the truth. He doesn't want you. He doesn't want the baby. He wants me. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner everyone can move on. Natalie? Bridget's voice echoed from the front door. Nat, you in here? Bedroom, Natalie called out. Her voice sounded dead, hollow. Bridget appeared in the doorway, took in the scene. Vanessa in a towel, Natalie crying, the suitcase on the floor. What the hell is going on? I'm Vanessa. The woman extended her hand like they were at a business meeting. Garrett's fiancé. You need to leave. Bridget's voice was steel. Now. I live here. No, you don't. This is Natalie's home, and you're trespassing. Garrett gave me a key. I don't care if he gave you the deed. Get dressed and get out before I call the police. Vanessa's expression hardened. You can't tell me what to do. Watch me. Bridget pulled out her phone. I'm a mandatory reporter. I see an unstable woman harassing a pregnant patient. That's my job. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Vanessa laughed. Short, sharp, mean. Fine, I'll get dressed. But this isn't over. Not even close. She disappeared into the bathroom. Bridget moved to Natalie's side. You okay? No. And what did she say? The truth. Natalie picked up her suitcase. Let's just go. I can't be here anymore. They made it to the living room. Natalie was reaching for the front door when Vanessa emerged, fully dressed now, wearing Natalie's jeans, her shirt, her shoes, like a costume, like playing dress-up in someone else's life. One more thing, Vanessa said. She walked past them, out onto the balcony. The penthouse had a wraparound balcony, 20 stories up, glass panels for walls, safety rails barely hip-high. Natalie never went out there. Hated heights. Always had. Come here, Vanessa called. I want to show you something. We're leaving, Bridget said. Just for a second. Promise. Then you'll never have to see me again. Natalie shouldn't have followed. Knew she shouldn't. But her feet moved anyway. Out onto the balcony. The city spread below. Traffic sounds rose up. Wind whipped her hair. The baby kicked. Urgent, insistent. Vanessa leaned against the railing, looked out at the view. Beautiful, isn't it? Garrett says this is his favorite part of the apartment. The view, the space, the height. What do you want? Natalie asked. Vanessa turned. Her smile was gone now. Just cold calculation. He never wanted that baby. He wanted me. And if you're so desperate to keep something he doesn't want, then maybe you should take it and go. That's what I'm doing. No. Vanessa moved closer. I mean, really go. Disappear. Stop making his life difficult. Stop ruining our future. Vanessa. Bridget was in the doorway. Back away from her. Or what? Vanessa's voice rose. Cracked. The mask was fully off now. Something wild looked out from behind her eyes. Or what? She'll call the police? Tell them what? That I'm upset? That I'm emotional? Women get emotional all the time. Nobody cares. And you're scaring her. Bridget stepped onto the balcony. And you're scaring me. So let's all just take a breath and he was mine first. Vanessa screamed it. Loud enough that neighbors might hear, might call someone, might intervene. Before you, before the baby, before any of this, I met him 3 years ago. We were together. Then he married you and I waited. I've been waiting and he promised. He promised we'd be together. 3 years? Natalie's voice was faint. You've been with him for 3 years? Not with, waiting, wanting, loving, while he played house with you. The timeline clicked into place. 3 years ago, Natalie and Garrett had been married for 2 years. She'd been working at the company. Vanessa had just been hired, 24 years old, fresh out of college. Garrett had introduced them at a company happy hour. This is Vanessa, new account executive, going to do great things. She'd been in love with him even then. You need help, Natalie said softly. Professional help. This isn't love, this is... Don't. Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper, more dangerous than shouting. Don't you dare tell me what I feel. You don't know. You've never loved anyone the way I love him. You just wanted his money, his name, his status. I want him. Just him. And I'm done waiting. What happened next occurred in slow motion. Vanessa lunged forward. Bridget grabbed for Natalie. But the balcony rail, recently cleaned, still slick from yesterday's rain, offered no grip. Natalie felt Vanessa's hands on her shoulders, felt herself being pushed. The baby kicked 3 times, hard. Bridget screamed, and then, air. The wind rushed past Natalie's face. She was falling. 20 stories. The building blurred beside her. Windows, concrete, glass. Too fast to process. Too fast to scream. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The baby kicked inside her. Frantic, terrified, alive. Time stretched, compressed. Each second lasted forever and no time at all. Natalie's life didn't flash before her eyes. Her daughter's future did. Every milestone she'd never see. First words, first steps, first day of school, graduation, wedding, grandchildren. All of it gone. All of it ending in 3 seconds, 2 seconds. One, something caught her. Not the ground, not death, something else. Metal, fabric, ropes. She slammed into construction netting. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. Pain exploded through her ribs, her hip, her shoulder, but she was caught, suspended, tangled in scaffolding and billboard frame 15 feet above the sidewalk. The Billboard, Brooks' advertising group, Garrett's company, his face 50 feet tall, smiling down at the city, at her, at the miracle that had just occurred. She was alive. The baby kicked. Once. Twice. Still alive. Natalie tried to move. Couldn't. Her body was wedged into the metal framework. Her legs dangled, one arm trapped above her head, the other clutching her stomach. Blood trickled from somewhere. She couldn't tell where. Couldn't feel anything except the baby moving. Still moving. Please keep moving. Sirens rose from below. Shouts, screams, people running. Someone was crying. Was it her? Was it Bridget? Was it, "Stay still"? A voice from above. Male. Urgent. "Don't try to move." Natalie looked up. Couldn't see who was speaking. The sun was too bright. Everything was too bright. She was a mom. Impossibly. Miraculously. Alive. "I'm pregnant," she called up. Her voice was hoarse. Broken. "My baby. Check the baby. Emergency services are on the way. Just stay still. Don't move." But staying still meant hanging here, tangled in metal, dangling above death. Every breath hurt. Every heartbeat sent pain radiating through her body. Something was broken. Multiple somethings. She could feel it. Ribs. Maybe her pelvis. Definitely her shoulder. But the baby was still kicking. A fire truck arrived. then an ambulance, then another ambulance. Voices shouted instructions. A ladder extended. Firefighters climbed. Someone was beside her, hands gentle, checking her pulse, her breathing, her stomach. "Ma'am, can you tell me your name?" "Natalie. Natalie Brooks." "How far along are you, Natalie?" 32 weeks, 7 months. Is the baby okay?" "We're going to get you down and check. Just stay calm." Calm. She'd fallen 20 stories, been caught by a billboard, was hanging 15 feet above concrete. Calm was not an option, but she forced herself to breathe. Slow, steady, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The baby needed oxygen, needed her to stay conscious, needed her to survive. They lowered her onto a stretcher. Every movement was agony, straps across her chest, her hips, her legs. Someone cut away her shirt. Cold air hit her skin. Then she was moving, down the ladder, onto solid ground, into the ambulance. Dr. Evelyn Morrison was already there. Trauma surgeon, OBGYN. Bridget must have called her, must have told her what happened. Dr. Morrison's face was calm, professional, but her eyes were worried. "Natalie," she said, "stay with me. We're going to check the baby." A Doppler pressed against Natalie's stomach. Static, silence. Static. Then, thump, 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 thump. A heartbeat. Fast, strong, alive. Natalie started crying, loud, ugly, relief flooding through her. "She's okay?" "Heartbeat's good, strong, but we need to get you to the hospital, now." The ambulance lurched forward. Sirens screamed. Natalie stared at the ceiling. Fluorescent lights, medical equipment, IV bags swaying with each turn. This was real. This was happening. She'd been pushed off a building by her husband's mistress, caught by his company's billboard, was racing to the hospital to save her daughter. The absurdity would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. "Bridget?" Natalie asked. "She's following in her car," Dr. Morrison said. "She gave us your medical history. When was your last checkup?" 3 days ago. Everything was normal. Baby's healthy, blood pressure's good. No complications." "And now?" Dr. Morrison's hands pressed gently against Natalie's stomach, checking, assessing. "Any pain here? Here? What about cramping?" "Pain everywhere, but not cramping, just kicks. She keeps kicking." "That's good. That's very good. We're almost there." The ambulance stopped. Doors opened. They were already moving, through automatic doors, down hallways, people shouting medical terms Natalie didn't understand. Someone was taking her blood pressure. Someone else was inserting another IV. Everything moved too fast and too slow at the same time. They took her straight to surgery. "Emergency C-section," Dr. Morrison explained. "The baby's in distress. We can't wait." "But she's only 32 weeks. Natalie grabbed the doctor's hand. "It's too early. She'll have better chances outside than in. Your body's been through massive trauma. We need to get her out." "Will she be okay?" Dr. Morrison squeezed her hand. "We're going to do everything we can." They prepped her, shaved her stomach, marked the incision line. Anesthesiologist explained the epidural. Natalie signed forms she didn't read, gave consent for procedures she didn't understand. All that mattered was the baby. Save the baby. Nothing else mattered. The surgery began. Natalie couldn't feel anything below her chest, couldn't see past the blue curtain blocking her view, but she could hear machines beeping, people talking, metal instruments clinking. Then Dr. Morrison's voice, "Almost there. Just another minute." Pressure, pulling, tugging. Then a cry, high, angry, strong. Her daughter screaming at being pulled from warmth into cold, into bright lights and strange hands, into a world that had already tried to kill her. "It's a girl," Dr. Morrison announced. Unnecessary. Natalie already knew, had known for months, but hearing it made it real. Her daughter was here, was alive, was screaming. They held her up for just a second. Tiny, red, covered in white vernix. Perfect. Impossibly perfect. Then they took her away, to the NICU, to warmth and monitors and machines that would keep her alive. "Wait," Natalie called. I need to see her." "She needs immediate care," a nurse said gently. "You'll see her soon. I promise." Morrison was still working, stitching, repairing. Natalie's eyes grew heavy. The anesthesia, the trauma, the exhaustion. She fought to stay awake, needed to know her daughter was okay, needed to. Her daughter's cry echoed in her ears as everything went dark. Her last thought, we survived him. Oh man. Natalie woke 3 days later. The room was dim, quiet. Machines beeped softly. Her body felt like one giant bruise. She tried to move. Pain shot through her ribs, her pelvis, her shoulder. Don't move, Jim. Bridget's voice, Bridget's hand on her arm. You're okay. You're safe. The baby? Natalie's voice was a croak. Grace is perfect, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, breathing on her own, no complications. They're calling her a miracle baby. Grace? I thought you'd want to name her, but the nurses needed something for the charts. Grace seemed right, given the circumstances. Grace. Yes, because she'd been given grace. Impossible grace. Miraculous grace. She'd fallen 20 stories and lived. Her daughter had been born 8 weeks early and thrived. Grace was perfect. Grace Bridget Brooks, Natalie whispered. Because she gave me grace, and you saved us both. Bridget's eyes filled with tears. You scared me so much. When you went over, I thought, I know. Natalie squeezed her hand. I know. How long was I out? 3 days. They had to do surgery on your pelvis. You have 4 broken ribs, fractured shoulder, concussion. But you're alive, Nat. You're actually alive. Where's Grace? NICU, 2 floors down. I can take you in a wheelchair as soon as you're cleared. And Garrett? Bridget's expression darkened. He's here, with his lawyer. The police have been waiting to talk to you about what happened, about Vanessa. Vanessa, the name sent ice through Natalie's veins. The woman who'd pushed her, who'd tried to kill her, who'd almost killed her daughter. Is she arrested? Yes, attempted murder. Bridget witnessed the whole thing. She gave a statement, but they need yours too. I'll tell them everything. Natalie closed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her, but she forced them open again. I need to see Grace first, before anything else. I need to see my daughter. I'll get the nurse. Bridget left. Natalie lay in the hospital bed, stared at the ceiling. She'd survived. Grace had survived. They were alive. Against every odd, against every logical outcome. They were alive. The door opened, but it wasn't Bridget. It wasn't a nurse. Garrett stood in the doorway, still in a suit, still perfectly groomed, like the last 3 days hadn't happened, like his wife hadn't fallen 20 stories, like his daughter hadn't been born fighting for her life. He had his lawyer with him. Natalie, Garrett said. His voice was careful, measured. We need to talk. Natalie stared at her husband. 3 days. She'd been unconscious for 3 days, had woken to pain and fear and desperate need to see her daughter. And he was here, not to check if she was okay, not to meet Grace, not to apologize or explain or do any of the things a husband should do when his wife nearly dies. He was here with his lawyer. Get out, Natalie said. Her voice was weak but clear. We need to discuss what happened. Garrett took a step into the room. His lawyer followed. A man in his 50s, expensive suit, briefcase before you talk to the police. I said get out. Natalie, be reasonable. Garrett moved closer to the bed. Vanessa is mentally unstable. I had no idea she'd do something like this. But we need to present a united front. For the baby. The baby. Not Grace, not our daughter, the baby. Like she was an object. A problem to be managed. Get out of my room. Natalie's hand moved toward the call button. Now. I'm trying to help you. Garrett's voice had that edge again. The one that said he was losing patience. If we don't control the narrative, this becomes a media circus. My company's reputation, your reputation. The baby's future. We need to. I fell past your face, Natalie interrupted. Her voice was ice. Your Billboard, your company, your legacy, and you're worried about optics? That's not what You weren't at the apartment. You were at work. At your company. The one that saved my life? Where were you when your wife was being pushed off a balcony? Garrett's jaw tightened. I was in a meeting. Did you know Vanessa was there? Silence. Did you give her a key to our apartment? More silence. Did you know she was harassing me, calling me, texting me? I told her to stop. Garrett's voice was defensive now. I said the relationship was over, that we needed space while I figured things out with you. While you figured things out. Natalie repeated the words slowly. I was 7 months pregnant. She was stalking me, and you were figuring things out. This is why we can't have a rational conversation. Garrett turned to his lawyer. See, this is what I've been dealing with. The constant emotional. Natalie pressed the call button, hard, held it down. An alarm sounded at the nurse's station. Footsteps running. A nurse appeared in the doorway, young, female, looking between Natalie and the two men with confusion. Mrs. Brooks, are you all right? This man is not on my visitors list. Natalie didn't take her eyes off Garrett. Remove him. Ma'am, I'm her husband. I don't care if you're the president. She's asking you to leave. The nurse's voice was firm. Hospital policy. Patient wishes come first. This is ridiculous. Garrett looked at his lawyer. Tell her she can't do this. Actually, she can. The lawyer was already backing toward the door. We should go. We can discuss this later. I don't want to discuss anything. Natalie's voice was steady now, clear. I want a divorce. I want full custody. And I want you to stay away from me and my daughter. Your daughter? Garrett's mask slipped. Real anger flashed across his face. She's my daughter too. My blood. My legal right. You weren't here when she was born. Natalie's voice broke. You didn't hold her. Didn't see her. Didn't ask if she was okay. You brought your lawyer to negotiate terms while your child fights for every breath in the NICU. I was giving you space. You were covering your ass. It was the first time Natalie had cursed at him. Ever. 5 years of marriage. She'd never raised her voice, never lost control, always been the understanding wife, the supportive partner, the woman who made excuses for him. That woman had died on the way down. What survived was different, harder, done apologizing. The nurse moved closer to Garrett. Sir, I need you to leave now, or I'm calling security. Garrett looked at Natalie, really looked at her, like seeing a stranger. You're making a mistake. When you calm down, when you think about what's best for the baby, you'll realize you need me. I need you? Natalie's laugh was bitter. I fell 20 stories because your mistress pushed me. I was caught by a billboard advertising your company. I gave birth alone while you were in meetings. And you think I need you? I'm the father. You're a sperm donor who showed up 3 days late with a lawyer. The nurse was already moving Garrett toward the door. His lawyer had disappeared into the hallway. Coward. Probably billable hours for the visit. Probably charged for witnessing a marriage implode in real time. Garrett stopped at the door. You'll regret this. When the shock wears off, when you remember everything we built together, you'll realize I'm right. The door closed behind him. Natalie sat in the sudden silence, shaking, not from fear, from rage, pure burning rage. She'd almost died. Her daughter had almost died, and he was worried about his company's reputation, about controlling the narrative, about being right. It was the first time she had chosen herself first, and it felt like flying. The door opened again. Natalie tensed, but it was just a different man, older, gray hair, kind eyes. He knocked even though he was already inside. Mrs. Brooks, I'm Theodore Bennett. Most people call me Theo. I'm an attorney. I don't want to talk to any more lawyers. I understand, but I'm not here representing your husband. I'm here because I think someone needs to represent you. Natalie studied him. He looked tired. His suit was rumpled, no briefcase, no paperwork, just a man who looked like he'd seen too much and couldn't look away anymore. What kind of attorney? She asked. Criminal. I've been following your case. Vanessa Cole is being charged with attempted murder. The evidence is substantial. But I've also been looking into your husband's assets, and I think there's more here. More that you should know. More? Theo pulled up a chair, sat down like they had all the time in the world. Your husband owns Brooks Advertising. Successful company, good reputation, worth approximately $15 million. I know all this. Do you know that the billboard that saved you has been under construction for 6 months? That the project was budgeted at $200,000? That actual costs show only $80,000 spent? Natalie's brain was slow. Pain medication, exhaustion, trauma. She couldn't process what he was saying. I don't understand. Someone's been embezzling from that project, routing funds through shell companies, hiding the money offshore. And I have documentation showing your husband's digital signature on every fraudulent transaction. The words sank in slowly. Garrett, embezzling from his own company. How much? Preliminary, about $4.2 million over 18 months. 4.2 million. The number was so large, it became meaningless. Why are you telling me this? Because you own 12% of that company. Wedding gift from his parents, which means you have standing to bring this to the board, which means you have power you probably don't realize you have. I almost died. My baby almost died. And all I can think is, why didn't I leave the first time I felt invisible to him? The words came out before Natalie could stop them. The truth, raw and ugly and real. Theo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, leaving is always harder than people think, especially when you love someone, when you've built a life together, when you're pregnant and scared and dependent on them for everything. I wasn't dependent. I had my own job, my own money. Did you, or did you work at his company, use his insurance, live in his apartment, drive his car? Theo's voice was gentle. Financial abuse looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's overt, sometimes it's just making sure you never quite have enough power to leave. Natalie had never thought of it that way, but he was right. She'd worked at Brooks Advertising until the morning sickness got too bad. Had used the company insurance for all her prenatal care. Lived in the penthouse that was in Garrett's name only. Driven the car he'd bought, put on his credit cards. She'd had her own bank account but barely used it. Why bother when everything was joint, when they were married, when they were partners? Except they weren't partners. He was the boss, and she was the employee he happened to be married to. What do you want from me? Natalie asked. Permission to investigate, to bring what I find to you, to help you understand exactly what your legal position is before you make any decisions about divorce or custody or anything else. Well, why do you care? Theo stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. I had a sister, 10 years ago. Her husband was a successful businessman, charming, wealthy, respected. She tried to leave him. He made it impossible, financially, legally, emotionally. She stayed because she thought she had no choice. He turned back to face Natalie. His eyes were wet. She killed herself 3 weeks before their daughter's first birthday. I've spent the last decade helping women in situations like hers, like yours, making sure they know they have options, that they have power, that leaving is possible. I'm not going to kill myself. I know, but you were pushed off a building, and you survived. And now you have a choice. You can let him control the narrative, or you can take control yourself. Natalie closed her eyes, thought about Garrett's face in the doorway, his lawyer, his concern for optics, his complete lack of concern for her, for Grace. The billboard that saved you? Theo said quietly. It's been under construction for months. Someone's been embezzling from that project. Want to guess who? Natalie opened her eyes. Show me everything. They let Natalie see Grace that afternoon. A nurse wheeled her down 2 floors. Every bump sent pain through her fractured pelvis. Every breath hurt her broken ribs. But none of it mattered, not compared to seeing her daughter. The NICU was bright, warm, machines beeped and hummed, tiny babies in plastic isolates. Some barely bigger than a hand. Some with tubes and wires and monitors, all of them fighting, all of them survivors. Grace was in the corner. Isolate number 7. The nurse stopped the wheelchair beside it. You can touch her through the ports, the nurse said. Talk to her. She knows your voice. Natalie reached through the circular opening. Her hand looked enormous next to Grace's tiny body. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, big for a preemie. The nurse kept saying, miracle baby, kept saying she shouldn't be this healthy, shouldn't be breathing on her own, shouldn't be this strong. But she was. Grace was sleeping, eyes closed, tiny fists curled up by her face. Dark hair, 10 perfect fingers, 10 perfect toes. She looked like Natalie. Same nose, same chin. No sign of Garrett anywhere. "Hi, baby girl," Natalie whispered. "It's Mom. I'm sorry it took so long to meet you, but I'm here now, and I'm never leaving." Grace shifted. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. Natalie touched her hand, barely, afraid of breaking her, afraid this was a dream and she'd wake up still falling. But Grace's fingers wrapped around Natalie's pinky, held on. Strong grip, determined grip, fighter's grip. "Grace Bridget Brooks," Natalie said. "You're named after miracles, after second chances, after the fact that we're both still here when we shouldn't be." She stayed for an hour, just watching. Grace slept, woke, yawned, made tiny mewling sounds. The nurse brought a bottle, showed Natalie how to feed through the isolette ports. Grace drank 2 ounces, fell back asleep. Perfect, healthy, alive. Natalie cried the whole time. Silent tears that wouldn't stop, relief, joy, grief for everything that had happened, rage at everything that had been taken from them. Love so overwhelming it felt like drowning. "You should rest," the nurse said eventually. "She'll be here when you wake up, I promise." Natalie let them wheel her back to her room, let them help her into bed, let them give her more pain medication. But she couldn't sleep, couldn't turn off her brain, couldn't stop seeing Vanessa's face, Garrett's face, the ground rushing up, the billboard catching her. At 3 in the morning, she finally drifted off. Woke at 3:30, gasping. PTSD flashback. The balcony, the push, the fall. Her hands were shaking, her heart racing, cold sweat soaked through her hospital gown. A nurse found her, not the same one from before. Older, Jamaican accent, soft hands. "You're okay," the nurse said. "You're safe. Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth." "I can't." Natalie's voice was high, panicked. "I can't do this. I'm broken. How do I keep her safe when I couldn't keep myself safe?" The nurse didn't answer, just sat on the edge of the bed, took Natalie's hand. They sat in silence for 10 minutes. Just breathing. Just being. No platitudes. No false promises. Just presence. Eventually, Natalie's heart slowed. Her hand stopped shaking. The nurse brought warm water, helped her wash her face, changed her gown, brought fresh sheets. "You've been through something terrible," the nurse said. Her accent made the words musical, soothing. "Your body remembers even when you sleep. Gonna take time to heal, inside and out." "I don't have time. Grace needs me. Grace needs you alive, breathing, taking care of yourself so you can take care of her. That's what babies need most. Mama who's present, not perfect." Natalie nodded. The nurse left. She lay in the dark, listened to machines beeping, footsteps in the hall, the city humming outside her window, alive. All of it alive. Morning came. Bridget arrived with clean clothes, toiletries, news. "The police want your statement," Bridget said, "and there's someone else here to see you. Says they're from the DA's office." "Already?" "Vanessa's arraignment is this afternoon. They're charging her with attempted murder. They want to make sure you're okay with one." "Okay with it?" Natalie's laugh was sharp. "She pushed me off a building. I'm not sure okay is the word." A woman in a pantsuit entered, mid-40s, no-nonsense haircut, district attorney badge. "Mrs. Brooks, I'm Jennifer Harris. I'm handling the prosecution of Vanessa Cole." "Good. I need to ask you some questions about what happened, about your relationship with Ms. Cole, about anything that might help establish motive and intent." Natalie told her everything, the affair, the messages, the calls, Vanessa showing up at the apartment, the confrontation on the balcony, every word, every threat, every moment leading up to the push. Jennifer took notes, asked clarifying questions, recorded the conversation with Natalie's permission. "Walsh's testimony corroborates everything you're saying," Jennifer said when they finished. "She witnessed the assault. She's willing to testify. Combined with the physical evidence and Ms. Cole's own statements to police, we have a strong case." What did Vanessa tell the police? That it was an accident, that you slipped, that she tried to grab you but couldn't reach in time. That's a lie. We know, Mr. Walsh's testimony proves it. So does the forensic evidence. The angle of the push, your injuries, everything supports assault, not accident. Jennifer packed up her recorder, handed Natalie a business card. The arraignment is at 2 o'clock. You don't have to be there, but if you want to be, I can arrange it. I'll be there. Mrs. Brooks, you just had major surgery 3 days ago. I'll be there. After Jennifer left, another visitor arrived. Young, short dark hair, sharp eyes, gender ambiguous in a way that felt intentional. They knocked, entered, sat without being invited. Riley Harper, they said, forensic accountant. Theo Bennett hired me. I've been looking at your husband's finances. Already? I'm very good at my job. Riley pulled out a tablet, started swiping through documents. Your husband has been systematically draining company funds for 18 months, routing money through 3 shell companies, depositing it into offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Riley turned the tablet to show Natalie. Bank statements, wire transfers, digital signatures, all Garrett's. How much? Natalie asked. Total? $4.2 million, most of it in the last 6 months, including $200,000 from the Billboard construction project, the one that saved your life. The irony was almost funny. Garrett had been stealing from his own company, from a project that was supposed to be a vanity piece, his face on a billboard, his legacy in lights. And that theft, that corner cutting, that fraud, had created the scaffolding and netting that caught Natalie when she fell. His crime saved her life. He made one mistake, though, Riley continued. He did it using company equipment, company email, company accounts, which means the board of directors has grounds to terminate him for cause, which means they can vote him out immediately. No severance, no golden parachute, nothing. I don't understand why you're telling me this. Because you own 12% of the company, which means you have a seat at the table, which means you can call for a vote, which means you have power. Power, the word felt foreign. Natalie had never had power in her marriage, had never wanted it. She'd wanted partnership, equality, love. But those were illusions. What was real was power, and she'd just been told she had it. What if I don't want the company? Natalie asked. What if I just want a divorce in custody and to never see him again? That's an option, but think about what he tried to take from you. Your home, your security, your future, your daughter's future. He was building a nest egg to leave you with nothing, to start over with Vanessa, to make it so you'd be too dependent and too scared to fight back. And now you can take the thing he loves most, not revenge, justice. He tried to destroy you. You get to build something better from the ruins. Riley left the tablet, said they'd be in touch, disappeared as quickly as they'd arrived. Natalie stared at the documents. Numbers, accounts, evidence, proof that her husband was not just a cheater, but a criminal, that his crimes had inadvertently saved her, that the universe had a twisted sense of irony. Patricia Brooks arrived late afternoon, Garrett's mother. Natalie braced for attack, for blame, for accusations that she'd driven Garrett to this, that she'd failed as a wife, that she had no right to keep Patricia from her grandchild. But Patricia just sat down, quiet, her hands folded in her lap. She looked older than Natalie remembered, tired, saying, "I'm sorry," Patricia said. Natalie blinked. "What?" "I raised him to be better than this, taught him to honor his commitments, to respect women, to value family above everything." Patricia's voice cracked. "And he let his pregnant wife fall 20 stories. You didn't know. I knew something was wrong, knew about the affair, knew he was pulling away from you. I told myself it was cold feet, new father anxiety, stress at work. I made excuses for him the same way you did." They sat in silence. Two women who'd loved the same man, who'd both been betrayed by him, who'd both made excuses until they couldn't anymore. "I need to ask you something," Natalie said, "and I need you to be honest. Anything. What do you need from me?" Patricia looked up, surprised, like she'd expected anger, bitterness. "Not this. I need the truth," Natalie continued. "Every board meeting, Every business decision, every dirty secret. Can you give me that? Patricia reached into her purse, pulled out a thumb drive, set it on the table between them. I've been documenting for months, Patricia said. Every meeting, every financial report, every conversation where something felt wrong. I knew he was up to something. I just didn't want to believe it. Natalie picked up the thumb drive. It felt heavier than it should, weighted with evidence, with betrayal, with the end of a marriage and the beginning of something new. Why are you helping me? Natalie asked. Because you're the mother of my grandchild, because you nearly died carrying her, because my son is a criminal and a coward and someone needs to stop him before he destroys more lives. Patricia stood, walked to the door, stopped. I'd like to meet Grace. When you're ready, no pressure, but I'd like to know my granddaughter. I'll think about it. After Patricia left, Natalie plugged in the thumb drive, spent 3 hours reading, board meeting minutes, financial reports, email chains, everything Patricia had promised. Everything Theo and Riley needed to build a case. Garrett wasn't just embezzling, he was actively planning to force Natalie out, to divorce her while she was vulnerable, to use his family connections and financial resources to fight for primary custody, to leave her with nothing while he started over with Vanessa. He'd been planning this for months, maybe years. The affair, the embezzling, the manipulation, all of it part of a larger strategy to erase her from his life while keeping the parts he wanted. The company, the reputation, the child he could use for taste breaks and photo ops. He'd underestimated one thing, though. He'd underestimated her will to survive, her refusal to stay down, her ability to rise from 20 stories of falling and land on her feet, or at least land on a billboard. Close enough. Natalie called Theo. I'm ready. Set up the board meeting. I'm calling for a vote to remove Garrett Brooks as CEO. When do you want to do it? As soon as possible. This week, if you can arrange it. You just had surgery. You're in the hospital. I'll be in a wheelchair, but I'll be there telling. They need to see me, need to know I'm not going to disappear quietly, that I survived and I'm coming for everything he tried to take. Theo was quiet for a moment, then he laughed, short, sharp, surprised. All right then, I'll set it up for Friday, 3 days from now. You sure you'll be cleared by then? I'll be cleared. She hung up, lay back in the hospital bed, stared at the ceiling. Her body was broken. Her marriage was over. Her life was in pieces. But she was alive. Grace was alive. And they were going to rebuild, not from the ashes, from the billboard that caught them, from the miracle that saved them, from the evidence that would destroy him. Garrett had pushed her to the edge. Vanessa had pushed her over. But Natalie was done falling. Now she was going to fly. Physical therapy started the next morning. A therapist named Marcus wheeled Natalie to the rehabilitation wing. Bright space, exercise equipment, parallel bars, other patients learning to walk again, learning to live again. All of them broken in different ways, all of them fighting. We're going to take it slow, Marcus said. Your pelvis is fractured in 2 places. Your ribs are healing. Your shoulder needs another week before we can work on range of motion. Today, we're just going to see if you can stand. Standing sounded simple. It wasn't. Natalie gripped the parallel bars. Marcus supported her from behind. She tried to put weight on her legs. Pain exploded through her pelvis, white hot, blinding. She gasped, nearly fell. It's okay, Marcus said. Try again. Just a little weight. We're building strength back one moment at a time. She tried again and again. By the end of the hour, she could stand for 30 seconds. Could shift her weight slightly, could take one shuffle step before the pain became too much. It felt like nothing, like failure, like she'd never walk again, never carry Grace, never climb stairs or run, or do any of the things she'd taken for granted. This is normal, Marcus assured her. You fell 20 stories. Your body experienced catastrophic trauma. The fact that you're standing at all is remarkable. Remarkable. That word again. Miracle. Remarkable. Impossible. Everyone kept saying variations of the same thing. You shouldn't be alive. You shouldn't be this okay. You shouldn't be able to heal. But she was. Slowly. Painfully. But she was. Bridget brought Grace to visit that afternoon. The nurse had said it was okay, that skin-to-skin contact would help both of them heal, that babies could sense their mothers even when separated. They set Grace on Natalie's chest, tiny weight, warm, breathing, her head tucked under Natalie's chin. Natalie's hospital gown was open, Grace's skin against hers, heartbeats syncing, breath matching breath. "Hi, baby," Natalie whispered. "I'm sorry Mom's broken, but we're going to get better together, okay? We're going to learn to walk and breathe and live together." Grace made a tiny sound, not quite a cry, more like agreement, like she understood, like she knew. Natalie closed her eyes, let herself feel this moment, her daughter alive, her own heart beating, the impossible fact of their survival. She caught her reflection in the window across the room, hair unwashed, tangled, no makeup, hospital gown, body broken, daughter strapped to her chest in a carrier Bridget had rigged. She looked like disaster, like trauma, like everything falling apart. And for the first time since before the wedding, she recognized herself. Not the polished corporate wife, not the accommodating partner, not the woman who made herself smaller so Garrett could feel bigger. Just Natalie, messy, broken, real. "I survived him," she said aloud. "The fall was just proof." Grace stirred, her tiny hand opened, closed, gripping at air, at life, at the future they'd build together. Friday arrived faster than Natalie expected. Dr. Morrison cleared her for the board meeting with strict conditions. 2 hours maximum, wheelchair only, pain medication managed carefully, someone monitoring her vitals. Return to hospital immediately after. "This is medically inadvisable," Dr. Morrison said, "but I understand why you need to do it. So we're going to make it as safe as possible." Bridget helped her dress, real clothes for the first time in a week. Maternity dress, the only thing that fit over her healing body. Flat shoes, light makeup to hide how pale she was, how much pain she was in, how exhausted. "You look beautiful," Bridget lied. "I look like death." "You look like someone who fell 20 stories and lived." "That's better than beautiful. That's powerful." Theo met them in the lobby. He'd arranged everything. The meeting was at Brooks Advertising headquarters. The board had been told it was urgent, that evidence of financial impropriety would be presented, that a vote would be called. Garrett knew she was coming, had tried to block it, had argued she wasn't healthy enough, wasn't clear-headed enough, was being manipulated by lawyers and friends who didn't understand the full picture. The board had overruled him. Patricia had made sure of it. They arrived at the building 20 minutes early, modern high-rise in Midtown, glass and steel. Brooks Advertising occupied floors 12 through 15. The boardroom was on 15. Floor-to-ceiling windows, city views, the same views as the penthouse, the same height where Natalie had fallen. She forced herself to look, to not flinch, to claim this space as hers. The board members arrived, 8 total. Marcus Sullivan, who Theo said would be an ally. Patricia, 6 others Natalie barely knew. Garrett's golf buddies, business school friends, people who'd benefited from his success. Garrett arrived last. He saw Natalie. His expression flickered. Shock, anger, calculation. He'd expected her to be too weak, too scared, too broken to show up. He'd miscalculated. "Mrs. Brooks," Marcus Sullivan spoke first. "We weren't expecting you. We thought Mr. Bennett would present on your behalf." "I own 12% of this company," Natalie said. Her voice was steady, clear. "I'm exactly where I should be." Garrett took his seat at the head of the table. "Natalie, you should be in the hospital, recovering. This is too much stress. I fell past your billboard 9 days ago. I've had enough stress. This is just business." The room went silent. Patricia smiled, just slightly, just enough. Theo distributed packets. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making time on short notice. I'm here today to present evidence of criminal financial activity within Brooks Advertising, activity that requires immediate board action." He walked them through it. The shell companies, the offshore accounts, the embezzled funds, $4.2 million over 18 months, every wire transfer, Every fraudulent invoice, every crime, Garrett's signature on everything. This is a misunderstanding, Garrett said. He looked at the board, ignoring Natalie completely. Accounting errors. My team will provide clarification. This is clearly a personal attack from my estranged wife. I have independent verification from 3 forensic accountants, Theo interrupted. I have bank statements showing the money in accounts only you can access. I have emails from your company, address authorizing the transfers. This isn't personal, Mr. Brooks. This is criminal. Riley Harper had joined remotely. Their face appeared on the screen at the end of the table. They walked through the technical details. Shell company creation dates, tax identification numbers, digital signatures, IP addresses showing the transfers originated from Garrett's office computer. The evidence was overwhelming, incontrovertible, damning. You also need to know, Theo continued, that Vanessa Cole, who is currently charged with the attempted murder of Mrs. Brooks, was involved in some of these transactions. She signed off on invoices, processed transfers. According to her own statement to police, she believed she and Mr. Brooks were planning to start their own agency. Using embezzled funds. The board members were silent, stunned, looking at Garrett like seeing him for the first time. This is absurd. Garrett stood. I built this company. Everything you have is because of me, my vision, my work, my reputation. And you're going to believe her? A woman who's clearly unstable? Who's being manipulated by... Sit down, Garrett. Patricia's voice cut through the room. Cold, final. You're not the victim here. Mom, you can't possibly... I can, and I am. I've known about the affair for months. Knew you were pulling away from your pregnant wife. Made excuses for you because I wanted to believe my son was better than this. But then you let her fall. You were at work, in meetings, while your wife went over a balcony, while your daughter was born fighting for her life. You were here, protecting your reputation. I didn't know what Vanessa was going to do. You gave her a key to your apartment. You told her you were leaving Natalie. You made promises you didn't intend to keep. And when she snapped, when she tried to kill your pregnant wife, you brought lawyers before you brought flowers. The silence was absolute. Final. I'm calling for a vote, Patricia said, to remove Garrett Brooks as CEO of Brooks Advertising, effective immediately, for cause. No severance, no benefits, no golden parachute. Out. Second, Marcus Sullivan said immediately. All in favor? Patricia's voice was steady. One hand raised, then another, then another. Patricia voted yes. Marcus voted yes. One by one, every hand in the room went up, except Garrett's. The motion passes, Patricia said. Mr. Brooks, you're terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You have 1 hour to collect personal items from your office. Company property, computer, phone, keys, stays here. Garrett looked at Natalie, really looked at her. His face cycled through emotions, disbelief, rage, fear. You did this. You destroyed everything we built. No, Natalie said quietly. You destroyed it. I just survived. Security arrived. 2 large men in dark suits. They waited by the door. Garrett stood, straightened his tie, tried to maintain dignity. Failed. You'll regret this, he said, to the room, to Patricia, to Natalie. All of you, when the press finds out, when clients leave, when the company collapses, you'll wish you'd listened. Nobody responded. They just watched him walk out, watched the door close, watched the end of an era. Patricia cleared her throat. We'll need an interim C until we can conduct a proper search. I'm proposing Natalie Brooks. Winters, Natalie interrupted. Natalie Winters. I'm taking back my maiden name. I don't want any connection to him. Natalie Winters, Patricia corrected. I'm proposing her for interim CEO. She built the marketing campaigns that made this company successful. She understands the business, and she has the most motivation to protect it. I don't have any experience running a company, Natalie said. Neither did Garrett when he started. He learned. So will you, and you'll have the full board's support. They voted, unanimous. Natalie Winters, interim CEO of Brooks Advertising. She sat in the wheelchair, holding the title she never wanted, never asked for, never imagined. "We should also discuss rebranding," Marcus Sullivan said. "The Brooks name is tainted now. Criminal investigation, attempted murder, affair. We need a fresh start." "Winters and Grace," Natalie said. The words came out before she'd thought them through, but they felt right. "Winters and Grace Group, because my daughter and I don't rebuild on broken foundations. We build new ones." The meeting ended. Natalie was exhausted. Every movement hurt. Every breath was work. But she'd done it. She'd faced the board, faced Garrett, claimed her power. Patricia wheeled her to the elevator. "I'd like to see Grace tomorrow, if that's okay with you." "You can see her today. Visiting hours at the NICU are until 8. "I'd like that very much." They rode down in silence. Outside, Bridget was waiting. They drove back to the hospital. Grace was awake when they arrived, eyes open, looking around, 6 days old and already alert, already curious, already strong. Patricia held her granddaughter for the first time, cried, apologized to a baby who couldn't understand, promised to be better, to do better, to protect what her son had tried to destroy. Natalie watched. Let herself imagine a future where they were a family, different than planned, broken in some ways, but maybe better, maybe stronger, maybe built on truth instead of illusions. That night, alone in her hospital room, Natalie made a list, things she needed to do, ways to rebuild, steps forward. 1. Heal, body and mind. Therapy for PTSD, physical therapy for broken bones, time for her wounds to close. 2. Protect Grace. Legal custody, restraining order against Garrett, safety protocols at the NICU and later at home. 3. Learn the business. Understand what she'd inherited, what could be saved, what needed to be burned down and rebuilt. 4. Remember that she survived, that she fell 20 stories and lived, that she had more strength than anyone, including herself, had known. She fell asleep holding that knowledge, broken but not defeated, healing but not helpless. Starting over, but not starting from zero. She had Grace. She had Patricia. She had Bridget and Theo and Riley and Dr. Morrison and an entire team of people who'd chosen her side, who'd seen her fall and helped her rise. Garrett had pushed her to the edge. Vanessa had pushed her over. But Natalie had caught herself on his billboard, on his crime, on his failure. And now she owned the sky. Vanessa Cole's trial began 3 weeks later. Natalie was out of the hospital by then, living in Bridget's apartment. Grace was home too, healthy, thriving, no complications despite being born 8 weeks early. The doctors called her a miracle. Natalie just called her Grace. The trial was held at criminal court downtown. Theo said Natalie didn't have to attend, that her testimony had been recorded, that watching might be traumatic. Natalie went anyway. She sat in the second row, Bridget beside her, Patricia on her other side, Grace with a nurse at the hospital. Natalie wasn't ready to bring her daughter to a courtroom, wasn't ready to expose her to this darkness. Vanessa entered in handcuffs, orange jumpsuit, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked younger without the veneer, more fragile, more broken. She saw Natalie. Her expression didn't change. No anger, no remorse, just blank. The prosecutor, Jennifer Harris, the woman who'd interviewed Natalie at the hospital, presented her case methodically. The affair, the harassment, the escalating calls and texts, the confrontation at the penthouse, Bridget's eyewitness testimony. "She pushed her," Bridget said from the stand. Her voice was steady, clear. "I saw it." Vanessa had her hands on Natalie's shoulders and she pushed. Hard, intentional, and she smiled. "Objection," Vanessa's lawyer called. "Speculation about my client's emotional state." "I saw her face," Bridget interrupted. "She smiled, like she'd won something." The defense tried to argue mental break, Garrett's influence, claimed Vanessa had been manipulated by a powerful man, that she wasn't in her right mind, that she'd been driven to desperation by promises he made and broke. Some of it was probably true. Garrett had manipulated her, had made promises, had used her the same way he'd used everyone else. But that didn't excuse attempted murder. The trial lasted 4 days. Testimonies, evidence, photos of the balcony, the billboard, Natalie's injuries, Grace in the NICU, a timeline showing the escalation from affair to obsession to violence for him. On day 3, Vanessa took the stand. Her lawyer had advised against it. Jennifer had told Natalie that defendants rarely testified in criminal trials. Too risky, too easy to say something damaging. But Vanessa had insisted. She looked directly at Natalie. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Then why did you push me?" Jennifer asked. "I was angry, desperate. Garrett had promised." Her voice broke. "He said she was the problem. He said if she was gone, we could be together. I loved him. I believed him." So you tried to remove the problem? "I wasn't thinking clearly. I wanted it to be over. The waiting, the lying, the pretending. I wanted him to choose. And when he wouldn't, when he kept saying just a little longer, just wait a little more, you decided to force his hand by murdering his wife?" "I didn't plan it. I went to the apartment to get my things. She was there, with her friend, acting like she owned everything, like she was the victim, but she had everything. His name, his home, his baby. And all I had were promises he kept breaking." Natalie realized Garrett manipulated them both. Different tactics, same control. He'd told Vanessa what she wanted to hear, told Natalie what she wanted to hear, played them against each other, made them both feel like the other was the obstacle to happiness. She didn't pity Vanessa, but she understood. "Did Mr. Brooks ever tell you to hurt his wife?" Jennifer asked. Vanessa was silent. "Did he ever suggest that Mrs. Brooks's death would solve your problems?" "Not directly." "What does that mean?" "He said things like how much easier life would be if she just went away, how he wished she'd never gotten pregnant, how he felt trapped." I took it as, "I thought he meant, you thought he wanted her dead?" "I thought he wanted to be free, and I wanted to free him." The courtroom was silent. Vanessa's lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. The jury was stone-faced, taking notes, judging. Natalie felt strange, empty. She'd expected rage, expected satisfaction at seeing Vanessa broken. But all she felt was tired. This woman had tried to kill her, had almost succeeded, had forced Grace into the world 2 months early, had fractured Natalie's pelvis and ribs and shoulder and life, and she'd done it for a man who'd never loved either of them, who'd used them both, who'd discarded them both when they became inconvenient. The verdict came on day 4, guilty, attempted murder in the first degree. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, came back unanimous. Vanessa showed no emotion, just stood when asked, sat when told, a puppet with cut strings. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Jennifer found Natalie in the hallway after. 15 to 25 years. That's what we're asking for. Maximum. Given the circumstances, pregnant victim, premeditated confrontation, lack of remorse, the judge will likely agree. "What about Garrett?" Natalie asked. "He manipulated her, used her, told her I was the problem. He's not being charged criminally, not in this case. The affair isn't illegal. Making promises to a mistress isn't illegal. Being a terrible person isn't illegal. But embezzlement is. Yes, that's a separate case. Federal charges. Those take longer, but they're coming. 15 to 25 years. Vanessa would be in her 40s when she got out, maybe older, half her life gone, for loving the wrong man, for believing his lies, for making the worst possible choice in the worst possible moment. As Vanessa was led away, she looked at Natalie one last time. "He'll do it to you too. He destroys everything he touches." Natalie didn't respond, just watched her disappear through the courthouse doors, into police custody, into the consequences of her actions. "She's not wrong," Bridget said quietly. "About Garrett, he does destroy people." "He already tried," Natalie replied. "I'm still here." Jim. The divorce proceedings were faster than the criminal trial. Garrett tried for custody, argued he was the more stable parent, had the resources, the home, the family support, that Natalie was dealing with PTSD, was barely walking, was living in a friend's apartment instead of providing a proper home. Theo dismantled every argument systematically. the affair, the embezzlement, the fact that Garrett was at work when his wife nearly died, his complete absence from the NICU, his attempt to control the narrative before checking on his newborn daughter, his documented request for Natalie to terminate the pregnancy. Mr. Brooks showed a pattern of prioritizing himself over his family, Theo told the judge. He wasn't at the hospital when his daughter was born. He didn't visit the NICU for 5 days. He brought lawyers before bringing diapers. This is not a man who puts his child first. The judge reviewed the evidence, the timeline, the testimonies. Garrett's lawyer argued work stress, new father anxiety, shock at the circumstances. None of it mattered. Mr. Brooks, the judge said, you'll have supervised visitation once monthly for 2 hours at a neutral location. If you complete anger management courses and family therapy, we'll revisit in 6 months. Once monthly, supervised. Garrett's face went red. He started to argue. His lawyer put a hand on his arm, silenced him. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mrs. Winters will retain full legal and physical custody. Mr. Brooks will pay child support based on his income, which appears to be currently under investigation for fraud, so that amount may be subject to change. The divorce was finalized the same day. 5 years of marriage, dissolved in 20 minutes. Natalie signed the papers, took back her maiden name officially, became Natalie Winters in the eyes of the law. She felt lighter walking out of the courthouse, like shedding a skin that never fit, like breathing for the first time in years. But it wasn't over, not quite. On the courthouse steps, reporters waited. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted from all directions. Mrs. Winters, how does it feel to survive a 20-story fall? Are you really taking over Brooks Advertising? What do you want people to know about domestic violence? Did you know about your husband's affair? Garrett was trying to leave through a side exit, trying to avoid the press, to slink away, to let Natalie handle the public humiliation alone. She stepped up to the microphones instead. My name is Natalie Winters, she said. Her voice was steady, clear, carrying. 3 weeks ago, I was pushed from a 20th floor balcony by my husband's mistress. I survived by landing on a billboard for Brooks Advertising, a billboard that was under construction due to embezzlement. The reporters went silent, cameras focused. This was the money shot, the soundbite, the headline. I'm the interim CEO of Brooks Advertising, which will be rebranding as Winters and Grace Group. Named for my daughter, because my daughter and I don't rebuild on broken foundations. We build new ones. Questions erupted. She ignored them. Just looked at the cameras, at the people watching, at the women who might see this and recognize themselves. If you're in a relationship that makes you feel invisible, you're not imagining it. If you're making excuses for someone's behavior, ask yourself why. And if someone tells you that you're the problem, that you're too emotional, that you're overreacting, trust your gut. You're probably right. She turned, started down the steps. Bridget materialized beside her. They walked to the car together, drove away, left Garrett and the reporters and the whole circus behind. Grace was waiting at Bridget's apartment, 4 weeks old, alert, growing, strong. Natalie held her, breathed her in, baby smell, formula and soap and new life. We did it, Natalie whispered to her daughter. We survived, and now we get to build whatever we want. Grace yawned, tiny mouth, pink tongue. She didn't care about divorce or trials or press conferences. She cared about milk and sleep and her mother's heartbeat. Natalie could learn from that, could focus on what mattered, could let go of everything else. She'd gotten justice, not revenge. She hadn't destroyed Garrett. She'd just removed him. He'd destroyed himself. The embezzlement, the affair, the complete lack of concern for his own child, all his choices, all his failures. She'd just survived. And that survival had given her power she never knew she wanted. Now she had to figure out what to do with it. 6 months passed like a dream. Natalie moved out of Bridget's apartment into a place of her own, smaller than the penthouse. 2 bedrooms, ground floor, near a park. It wasn't fancy, wasn't impressive, but it was hers. Her name on the lease, her furniture, her rules. Her home. Grace thrived, 6 months old, crawling, laughing, babbling nonsense that sounded like conversation. Her pediatrician said she was advanced for her age, meeting every milestone early. No signs of the traumatic start to her life. Natalie's body healed slower. The fractures took 3 months to fully close. The ribs still hurt when she breathed too deep. Her shoulder had limited range of motion. She walked with a slight limp that the doctors said might be permanent. She didn't care. She walked. That was enough. The PTSD was harder. Flashbacks at random times, the ground rushing up, Vanessa's face, the sensation of falling. 3 therapists later, she found one who understood, who didn't try to rush her through it, who let her process at her own pace. Trauma isn't linear, Dr. Sarah Chen explained. Some days you'll feel fine. Other days you'll be right back on that balcony. That's normal. That's your brain trying to make sense of the impossible. Natalie learned to live with it. The sudden panic, the need to avoid high places, the way her heart raced when someone stood too close. It was part of her now, like scars, like proof of survival. Work was easier. Theo had warned her that running a company was different from working at one. He was right, but it turned out Natalie was good at it, better than Garrett had been. She made decisions based on ethics instead of ego, hired people for talent instead of connections, built a team that functioned like family. Marcus Sullivan became her COO. Patricia stayed on the board but stepped back from daily operations. Riley Harper joined full-time as CFO, restructuring the finances, cleaning up Garrett's mess, making sure every dollar was accounted for. The rebrand happened slowly. Winters and Grace Group. New logo, new website, new mission statement focused on authentic storytelling and ethical advertising. Some clients left, the ones who'd come for Garrett's name and reputation. But new clients arrived, better clients, companies that valued integrity over flash. The Billboard, the one that saved Natalie's life, became the new headquarters sign. She'd had it preserved, moved, redesigned, not Brooks Advertising anymore. Winters and Grace, building brands with integrity. On a Tuesday morning in October, Natalie stood on the roof of her new office building, 20 stories up, different building, different city block, but same height. She'd avoided it for months, but today felt right. Today she needed to face it. The city stretched out below, traffic, people, life continuing. She walked to the edge, looked down, felt her heart race, felt the phantom sensation of falling. But she didn't fall. She stood, breathing, present, alive. Falling taught me something, she said aloud, to the wind, to herself, to Grace safe in the office below. I know how to rise. She wasn't afraid of heights anymore. Or she was, but she didn't let the fear control her. Didn't let it define her. Fear was just information, data, her brain telling her to be careful. She could acknowledge it and move forward anyway. Patricia arrived with Grace mid-morning. They developed a routine. Patricia watched Grace 2 mornings a week while Natalie handled company business. Then they'd have lunch together. 3 generations, learning each other, building something new. She crawled across the entire office, Patricia said. She was beaming, completely different from the polished society woman Natalie had known. More relaxed, more real. Made it all the way to Marcus's office. He's claiming she came to check on the quarterly reports. Natalie laughed, took Grace. Her daughter grabbed her face, pulled her hair, babbled something that sounded like mama. First word, or close enough, Natalie's heart swelled. You're doing better than I did, Patricia said quietly. Better mother, better CEO, better person. You're doing fine. I enabled my son, made excuses, looked away when I should have intervened. I knew he was lying to you about the affair, knew he was stealing from the company. I told myself it wasn't my place, that he was an adult, that he'd figure it out. He was an adult. His choices weren't your responsibility. But I raised him, taught him, or failed to teach him that women are people, not accessories. That integrity matters more than image. That love is action, not words. They were quiet for a moment. Grace played with Natalie's necklace. Silver pendant, a gift from Bridget, engraved with Grace's birth date and the words "you both flew." We can only control our own choices, Natalie said. You chose truth. when it mattered. You gave me the evidence I needed. You voted to remove him. You chose me and Grace over your own son. That's enough." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I'd like to be in her life, really in it. Not just babysitting, but birthdays and holidays and school plays and everything. If you'll let me." "I'd like that." They had lunch in Natalie's office, sandwiches from the place down the street, Grace in a high chair, making a mess of mashed sweet potato, getting it everywhere. In her hair, on her clothes, on Patricia's expensive blouse. Patricia didn't care, just laughed, wiped it off, asked for more paper towels. This version of her was so different from the polished woman at board meetings, more human, more grandmother than executive. After lunch, Natalie's email pinged. Message from Garrett. Subject line, "Please." She hovered over delete, could ignore it, could pretend she never saw it. He had no power over her anymore. No way to hurt her. The divorce was final. The custody settled. The company renamed. He was nothing but a stranger who'd once been her husband. But curiosity won. She opened it. "Natalie, I know you're not reading these. I know you've blocked me everywhere else. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was selfish and stupid and afraid. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I lost, and I would give anything to go back, to be the man you deserved, to be the father Grace needs. Please, just give me one chance to explain, to make this right, please." Natalie read it twice, felt nothing, no anger, no satisfaction, no pain, just nothing. The words were empty, meaningless. He was sorry. He wanted to make it right. He'd had chances, hundreds of chances, every day of their marriage, every moment of her pregnancy, every second after she survived. He'd chosen himself every time. She closed the email, didn't delete it, didn't respond, just closed it and opened Grace's nursery webcam instead. Her daughter sleeping in the office daycare. Safe, loved, protected. That was her answer. That was her priority. That was everything that mattered. Grace woke 20 minutes later. Natalie brought her up to the executive floor, showed her the view, the city, the sky, the same sky Natalie had fallen through and survived. "Someday," Natalie told her daughter, "I'll tell you this story, how I fell, how you fought to live before you were even born, how we survived something impossible. And you'll know that no matter what happens, no matter how far you fall, you come from people who know how to rise." Grace grabbed at the window, tiny handprints on glass, marks of life, of survival, of being here against all odds. Marcus knocked on the open door. "Board meeting in 10, new client presentation. You ready?" "Always." She handed Grace to Patricia, grabbed her files, headed to the conference room. 6 months ago, she couldn't walk, couldn't breathe without pain, couldn't imagine a future beyond surviving the next hour. Now she was running a multi-million-dollar company, raising a daughter, building something that mattered. Not perfect, not healed completely, but living, really living, not just surviving. The board meeting went well. New client signed, 3 more in the pipeline, revenue up 20% from last quarter, employee retention at an all-time high. Every metric better than under Garrett's leadership. "You're doing what I knew you could," Marcus said after, "building something sustainable, ethical, real. Garrett ran this company on charisma and connections. You're running it on competence and integrity. I'm just trying not to screw it up. You're succeeding." Evening came. Natalie packed up, Grace sleeping in her carrier. She said goodbye to the staff, locked her office, rode the elevator down. 20 floors, each one a reminder, but not a threat, just information, just history, just proof she'd survived. Outside, autumn air was crisp, leaves turning, city lights beginning to glow. Grace stirred, woke, looked around with wide eyes, taking in the world, her world, the one Natalie was building for her. They walked to the car, drove home. The apartment was warm, safe, theirs. Natalie fed Grace, bathed her, read her stories. Put her down in the crib that used to terrify Natalie. What if something happened? What if she couldn't protect her? What if... But Grace just slept, peaceful, secure, trusting her mother completely. Natalie stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, this tiny person, this miracle, this proof that impossible things happen, that survival is possible, that falling doesn't have to be the end of the story. Her phone buzzed. Text from Bridget. Drinks tomorrow? Celebrate the fact that you're a badass CEO who falls from buildings and lands on her feet? Natalie smiled. Typed back, caught by Billboard. Close enough. She made tea, sat on her couch, looked out the window at street level. No 20-story views, no city sprawling below, just sidewalk, cars, people walking dows. Ordinary life. Beautiful ordinary life. She'd survived. Grace had survived. They were rebuilding, not from nothing, not from tragedy, from strength, from resilience, from the knowledge that they could endure the worst and come out whole. Garrett had pushed her to the edge. Vanessa had pushed her over. But Natalie was done falling, done being controlled, done making herself small. Now she was taking up space, building companies, raising daughters, living loud and messy and real. And if anyone didn't like it, they could look away. Because Natalie Winters wasn't here to please anyone anymore. She was here to fly by. Grace's first birthday arrived on a Tuesday. Natalie woke before dawn, lay in bed listening to her daughter babble in the next room, talking to her stuffed animals, laughing at nothing, being 1 year old in all its chaotic joy. 1 year ago, Natalie had been 7 months pregnant, married, living in a penthouse, working at her husband's company, believing in a future that was already crumbling. 1 year ago, she hadn't known about the affair, the embezzlement, the lies, the danger waiting 3 weeks ahead. 1 year ago, she'd been a different person, smaller, quieter, always accommodating, always understanding, always making herself fit into shapes that didn't feel right. That woman was gone, fell 20 stories and died. What survived was different, harder, stronger, real. Natalie got up, made coffee, changed Grace's diaper, fed her mashed banana and yogurt that ended up mostly on the high chair tray, wiped tiny hands and face, got them both dressed. Grace in a birthday dress Bridget had bought, pink with white polka dots. Natalie in jeans and a sweater. Comfortable, her. The party was small, just family, which meant a very different group than a year ago. Bridget arrived first, carrying balloons and a cake shaped like a teddy bear. Cannot believe she's won. Feels like just yesterday you were in labor and I was having a panic attack in the waiting room. You were having a panic attack? You fell 20 stories. I watched it happen. I thought, Bridget's voice caught, I thought I'd lost you both. You didn't. We're here. We're okay. Patricia came with Marcus Sullivan and his husband. They'd become friends over the past year. Weekly dinners, business strategies sessions that turned into family game nights. Grace called Marcus Ma and his husband Daniel Dan. Not quite words, but close. Riley Harper arrived with a giant stuffed giraffe. Every kid needs one impractical toy from the cool aunt. You're not her aunt. I'm her godparent. It's in the paperwork Theo drew up. That makes me cool aunt. Morrison stopped by briefly. She'd become more than Grace's pediatrician, more than the surgeon who saved both their lives. She'd become family, checking in, making sure they were thriving, bringing medical knowledge wrapped in genuine care. Theo arrived last. He never stayed long. Always claimed he had other cases, other clients, but Natalie knew he came for the connection, for the reminder that the work mattered, that helping one woman and one baby survive meant everything. They gathered in Natalie's small apartment, so different from the penthouse. No 20-story views, no marble counters, no floor-to-ceiling windows, just home, real, warm, safe. They sang Happy Birthday. Grace clapped her hands, grabbed at the cake, made a spectacular mess. Everyone laughed, took photos, celebrated this tiny person who'd fought to live before she'd even been born. After cake, after presents, after Grace crashed hard for her afternoon nap, Natalie found herself on the small balcony. Ground level, Just a concrete slab overlooking the parking lot. But it was outside, and she wasn't afraid. Bridget joined her. You doing okay? Yeah, just thinking. About? How different everything is. A year ago, I thought I had my life figured out. Husband, baby on the way, career, future, all planned, all certain. And now? Now I have none of that. My marriage is over. My career is completely different. Everything I thought was solid turned out to be sand. But I'm happier, freer, more myself. I own a company. I'm raising Grace. I have people who actually care about me, not what I can do for them. It's smaller, messier, nothing like I planned. And that's okay. That's better than okay. That's real. They stood in silence. Grace's happy babbling drifted from inside. Patricia's voice reading a story. Laughter. Life. The opposite of the silence in the penthouse, the polished quiet that hid rot underneath. I need to tell you something, Natalie said. I never said thank you for that day. You tried to grab me, could have gone over with me, could have died trying to save me. I'd do it again. Bridget's voice was fierce. Every time, without hesitation. I know, and I'm grateful, not just for pulling me back, but for everything after. Letting us live with you, coming to board meetings, changing Grace's diapers at 3 a.m., being family when mine fell apart. That's what best friends do. I'm messy now. I have PTSD. I see a therapist twice a week. I'm terrified of balconies. Some days I can barely get out of bed. Some nights I wake up screaming. Grace cries and I panic because what if I can't protect her? What if I'm not enough? And you're also fierce, capable, building something beautiful, running a company, raising an incredible kid, being real instead of perfect. Both things are true. You don't have to choose. Both things are true with you. Natalie had been trying to be perfect for so long. The perfect wife, the perfect employee, the perfect mother, always hiding the messy parts, the scared parts, the broken parts. But broken didn't mean useless. Scared didn't mean weak. Messy didn't mean failure. It just meant human. I spent years making myself smaller so Garrett could feel bigger, Natalie said. And when that wasn't enough, when I literally fell, I realized the only way to truly fall is to forget you can fly. Bridget smiled. Look at you, getting all philosophical on Grace's birthday. It's true, though. I thought falling was the worst thing that could happen. Thought survival was the goal. But survival was just the beginning. The real work was remembering I could be more than just a victim, more than just someone who got pushed. You're definitely more. Evening came. Guests left. Grace was asleep in her crib, birthday decorations still hanging, cake half-eaten on the counter, dishes in the sink, mess everywhere. Beautiful mess, life mess, the kind that meant people had been here, had celebrated, had loved. Natalie cleaned up slowly, put away presents, threw out paper plates, saved the banner Bridget had made. Grace is one, it said, with photos from the past year. Tiny baby in the NICU, first smile, first time sitting up, first tooth, each milestone documented, each proof of thriving. Her phone rang, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Natalie Winters, male voice, unfamiliar. Yes? This is Detective James Riley. I'm calling regarding the federal investigation into Garrett Brooks's financial crimes. We're wrapping up. Wanted to let you know that charges will be filed next week. Wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. He's looking at 15 to 20 years. Natalie sat down, hard. 15 to 20 years. He stole over $4 million, hid it offshore, filed false tax returns for 3 years. This is serious federal crime. He'll serve substantial time. And Vanessa? Ms. Cole was sentenced last month. 18 years, attempted murder. She'll be eligible for parole in 12. Natalie thanked the detective, hung up, sat in her quiet living room, processing. Garrett was going to prison. Vanessa was already there. The people who tried to destroy her were facing consequences. Real consequences, life-altering consequences. She should feel something in satisfaction, victory, joy. But all she felt was tired, ungrateful, and ready to move forward. They destroyed themselves. She'd just survived. And that survival had been enough. Grace stirred in her crib. Natalie went to her, picked her up, held her in the rocking chair by the window. Streetlights glowed outside. The city hummed. Life continued. "Your first birthday," Natalie whispered. "And you don't even know how special you are. You fought to live before you could breathe. You survived when you shouldn't have. You're named Grace because that's what we were given. Impossible grace, miraculous grace. The grace to survive and heal and build something new." Grace grabbed Natalie's finger, held on, strong grip, survivor's grip. Her daughter might not remember the NICU, the fall, the trauma, but she'd carry the strength, the resilience, the knowledge that she came from someone who knew how to rise. 3 weeks later, Natalie stood at a podium, company rebrand launch event, press, clients, industry leaders. Everyone who mattered in advertising gathered to see Winters and Grace Group officially debut. The billboard hung behind her, the one that caught her. Redesigned, restored. Now it read, "Winters and Grace, building brands with integrity." Natalie looked out at the crowd, saw friendly faces. Patricia, Marcus, Riley, Bridget holding Grace in the back, Dr. Morrison, Theo, her team, her family, the people who'd chosen her side, and reporters, lots of reporters, cameras, microphones, recording everything. This was the moment, the soundbite, the headline, the story everyone had been waiting to hear. "This isn't about what happened to Mistress," Natalie said. Her voice carried, clear, strong, sure. "This isn't about falling or surviving or any of the dramatic details you've read about. This is about what happened after. This is about choosing to rebuild, choosing to be better, choosing to create something that matters." She paused. Let the words land. "Trauma doesn't define us. Our response does. I could have let what happened make me smaller, scared, broken, could have hidden away and let fear control my life. Instead, I chose to use it, to take the strength I found falling and use it to rise higher than I ever thought possible." Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled notes, but Natalie wasn't performing for them. She was speaking to the women watching, the ones in bad situations, the ones making excuses, the ones who felt invisible, the ones who needed to hear that leaving was possible, that surviving was possible, that building something new was possible. "I spent years making myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger," she continued. "And when that wasn't enough, when I literally fell, I realized something important. The only way to truly fall is to forget you can fly." The applause started small, then grew, people standing, clapping, not for the drama, not for the story, for the truth, for the message, for the woman who'd survived and used that survival to build something real. Grace's first birthday party had been small, just family. But this was for everyone, for every woman who'd ever been pushed, ever been told she was too emotional, too much, too little, not enough. This was proof that survival wasn't the end of the story, it was the beginning. 6 more months passed. Grace learned to walk, then run, then climb everything she wasn't supposed to. She said real words, mama and no and more, and eventually love you. The company thrived. New clients, better revenue, ethical practices, employees who stayed because they wanted to, not because they had to. Everything Garrett's company had pretended to be, Winters and Grace actually was. Garrett went to trial, was convicted, sentenced to 18 years federal prison. He'd be in his 50s when he got out, if he got out early for good behavior. Natalie didn't attend the trial, didn't watch the news coverage, didn't follow the updates. He was her past. Grace was her future. That was all that mattered. And Patricia visited every week. Grandmother and granddaughter building a relationship untainted by Garrett's crimes, learning each other, loving each other. Grace called her Mimi. It stuck. One evening, Natalie sat at her desk, late, office empty, building quiet. Grace sleeping in this daycare center 2 floors down, security guard watching, safe, always safe. She walked to the window, looked out, 20 stories. Same height she'd fallen from. But this was her building, her company, her sky. She wasn't afraid anymore. Or she was, but she didn't let it stop her. Fear was information. Data. She could acknowledge it and move forward anyway. Her phone buzzed. Text from Bridget. Girls' night this weekend? Your place. Wine and terrible movies. Natalie smiled. Typed back. Yes, Grace is getting so good at ignoring our questionable taste in entertainment. She looked back out the window. The city glowed below. Millions of lives. Millions of stories. She was just one. Just a woman who'd survived. Who'd rebuilt. Who'd learned to fly. But maybe that was enough. Maybe being just one story that proved survival was possible. That proved leaving was possible. That proved building something new was possible. Maybe that rippled out. Maybe other women saw and thought, if she can do it, maybe I can too. Maybe that was the point, not to be exceptional, just to be real, honest, living proof that falling doesn't have to be fatal, that broken can heal, that messy can be beautiful, that imperfect can be enough. Natalie picked up Grace from daycare, drove home, made dinner, gave her daughter a bath, read stories, did the bedtime routine that had become sacred, the normal, the ordinary, the beautiful mess of life. Grace fell asleep mid-story, little mouth open, tiny snores, one hand clutching her stuffed giraffe from Riley, the other stretched toward her mother, always reaching, always trusting. The baby kicked, 3 times, hard. Natalie looked down. Grace was stretching in her sleep, little feet pushing against her blanket, just like in the womb. Just like the day Natalie found the messages. The day everything changed. Yeah, sweet girl, Natalie whispered. I know exactly how you feel. She stood in the doorway, watched her daughter breathe. This tiny person, this miracle, this proof that impossible things happen every day. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But that's not quite right. What doesn't kill you gives you a choice. Stay broken or rebuild yourself into something unbreakable. Natalie chose unbreakable. Every day, every moment, every time fear whispered that she wasn't enough. Every time PTSD tried to drag her back to that balcony. Every time doubt crept in. She chose to rise, to rebuild, to remember that she'd fallen 20 stories and survived, that she'd caught herself on a billboard advertising her husband's company, that she'd turned his crime into her salvation, his failure into her foundation. She owned the advertising company now, changed the name, changed the culture, changed everything that needed changing and kept everything that mattered. But more than that, she owned herself, her choices, her future, her story. Garrett had pushed her to the edge. Vanessa had pushed her over, but falling wasn't the end. It was transformation, metamorphosis. The old Natalie dying so the new one could be born. And the new Natalie, she knew how to fly. She turned off the lights, left Grace's door cracked open, walked to her own room, climbed into bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears, new moments where she'd have to choose strength over comfort, rise over hide, fly over fall. But tonight she was just a mother, just a woman, just someone who'd survived the impossible and was building something beautiful from the ruins. She closed her eyes, felt the phantom sensation of falling, always there, always part of her, but not controlling her, not defining her, just information, just history, just proof of survival. The last thing she thought before sleep claimed her. Falling was flying all along. I just didn't know it until I landed. Natalie fell 20 stories, survived, and rebuilt her entire life from that moment. If her story moved you, if you saw yourself in her struggle, if you know someone who needs to hear that survival is possible, and leaving is possible, and rebuilding is possible, please share this video. Hit that like button if you believe women who fall can learn to fly. Drop a comment and tell me, what moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it the fall, the survival, the moment she took back her power? I read every single comment, and your words matter. And if you're new here, subscribe to this channel, because every week I bring you true stories of survival, of women who refuse to stay down, of people who turn their darkest moments into their greatest strengths. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that might change how you see your own strength. Remember what Natalie learned. The only way to truly fall is to forget you can fly. You're stronger than you think. You're more resilient than you know. And if you're going through something right now, or if you feel like you're falling, just remember, even 20 stories down, there's a way to survive, to heal, to rise. Thank you for listening to Natalie's story. Thank you for being here. And thank you for believing that broken things can become beautiful. I'll see you next week with another story of survival. Until then, keep flying.